Yo, you're watching Screaming Fish here, people, and once again I'm here for you guys with yet another video, and this time, as you can tell by the clearly very obvious title on the bottom of the screen, we are looking at Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, which is a sort of reboot slash sequel to the original Jumanji, but I'm not really going to tell you which one of those it is, because I feel that would be a spoiler. So, yeah. So, also, before I begin the video properly, I would just like to apologize for not really uploading last week, because I was just really busy and I just didn't have the time on my hands. So if you're looking for an explanation for that, there it is. So yeah, now I've got a video for you guys this week. So good for you and good for me, because I actually enjoy making these videos, believe it or not. So anyway, without further ado, let's go and take a look at my thoughts on Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. To be completely honest with you guys, I was not looking forward to this movie at all. I love the original from the bottom of my heart, but when I saw the trailers for this movie, it just looked like a cash grab that had been stuffed with every single possible thing they could think of to make people want to go see it. And if I'm honest, it just threw me off. However, I was quite surprised when I saw the reviews for this movie, as it was commonly described as something along the lines of a pleasant holiday surprise. So as you can imagine, when the film was finally released in my local cinema, I went with my brother and a few of his friends to go see the film, hoping that I would at least get some enjoyment out of it, but I was still a little skeptical. Thankfully though, like a lot of other people who have seen this movie already, I was pleasantly surprised. I had a really fun time watching Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. My favourite part about this movie is really the fact that it's the complete opposite to what I thought it was going to be. I thought this movie was going to be just this big, dumb action movie with next to no substance. But actually, this movie is cleverer than I think it had any right to be. For starters, what makes the performances in this movie so damn good is the fact that these actors are playing against type. Jack Black is playing a really popular high school girl who is always on Instagram taking selfies, and she is practically in love with her phone, and she's stuck in the body of an overweight middle-aged man, and stuck in the middle of the jungle as it happens. And watching that kind of person in this situation is some of the best comedic writing and acting I've seen in a good while. He has some of the film's funniest scenes, and whenever the film was making fun of the fact that this is a girl stuck in a guy's body, he absolutely stole the show. Dwayne Johnson is also really funny in this movie. He looks like Dwayne Johnson, obviously, but in real life he's a kid named Spencer who's afraid of just about everything, including squirrels. And so The Rock gets to have a lot of fun with that, because he's pretty much the nerdiest kid in school with a lot of phobias, and now he's stuck in the body of a guy who can basically do anything, and that concept is handled really well, and in a very funny way. Kevin Hart also does a really good job here. Yes, admittedly, there are times where it kind of feels like he's just making jokes about his size again. However, he as well as Jack Black has some of the film's best lines, one of which I think is going to become a really popular meme if anything else. His chemistry with Dwayne Johnson in particular is one of the best things about this movie. The way the two play off each other is really electrifying, not just from a comedic standpoint, but from an intimate point of view, which is why I think the relationship between these two characters is one of the most compelling parts of this movie. Karen Gillian is also good here. She herself has some really hilarious scenes, and I found her character pretty interesting, and her presence in this film and some of the things her character represents do make for some surprisingly effective social commentary. I found myself really enjoying the scenes between her and Jack Black in this movie, because these are two completely different people with two completely different backgrounds, personalities, and obviously different ways of living their lives, and when these two characters occasionally clash, it's rather effective, and they also have some pretty fun scenes together. Although with that said, while her character is pretty good, from a performance standpoint, she was definitely the weakest link out of the four, because she doesn't really act against type as much as the others do, which was a bit disappointing, but the chemistry between her and the other actors pretty much saved her performance for me. On the whole, the chemistry between the cast in this movie is the highlight. As said, they all play off each other really well, their dynamic is great, and I feel having all these different people turned into the people they're basically not is a really interesting and fun concept, particularly because most of the time it's absolutely hilarious, but also it's cool to see the way it affects each member of the group, whether it's for comedic purposes or when it's a lot deeper than that. Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, as you can tell based on what I've just said, is a delightfully tear-inducing gag fest. It is without a doubt one of the funniest movies of 2017, although a lot of its comedic charm does stem from the concept alone, there are still plenty of other giggles to be had with this movie. Personally, I found myself dying with laughter at some points. Even if the joke that came before didn't land all that well, it was quickly followed by something that had me giggling like a 2-year-old girl. I think the one thing that this movie does better than the original Jumanji is the fact that we actually get to see the world inside this board game. Spoiler alert, when I watched the original Jumanji for the first time, and Robin Williams, rest in peace, would occasionally talk about his experiences inside the game, I kept thinking to myself, that would be cool to see. And while this was nowhere near what I imagined back then, it was still a pretty cool world, and I also love the subtle callbacks to the original Jumanji movie. I'm not going to say whether or not this is a sequel or straight up reboot, because like I said, I think that is a spoiler, but some of the Easter eggs in this movie just had me squirming with nostalgia. I also found myself really liking the way this movie makes fun of video games. The characters would come across NPCs, aka non-playable characters who are just meant to take them someplace, and they just say the same things over and over again because that's what they're programmed to do. So they'll take the four main characters somewhere and then they'll just go and you never see them again. It has a lot of fun with the way a video game is typically structured. The villain's motives are literally explained in a cutscene that the characters are forced to watch in the way that you would experience it in a video game, and it's actually really funny the way the movie plays with that. With that said, it kind of feels like lazy filmmaking at times, because yeah, it plays out like a joke, but at the same time it's basically a rushed exposition scene that's meant to develop the villain, who I'll get to in just a sec. While I love how this movie presents this world as this gigantic video game in the way that it unfolds before the characters like a video game would, and how all the characters have these special abilities and weaknesses, but I couldn't help but notice a few plot holes. Like I said, this movie has a lot of fun playing with those aspects. However, the movie will often come back to Bobby Cannavale's villain when the characters aren't there, suggesting that this world operates as its own universe rather than like a video game like it's consistently presented as. I thought they would address that because a video game is meant to render as you experience it. Say for example, you're doing a boss fight in a video game. The main villain has sent a really powerful bad guy to fight you, and the bad guy is basically a boss fight. The main villain is not going to be somewhere else stuffing his face with pizza or slurping milkshakes. You render things as you encounter them. It would have made more sense if the movie had addressed the fact that this world seems to be functioning as a full-on universe and not just a game. But it never addresses why we're seeing things outside of the cutscenes that the characters are meant to be experiencing. Another problem I have with this movie is Nick Jonas's character. The performance on its own is fine, but I just didn't think his character was all that interesting. He does have a pretty integral role in the movie, but he's basically just rushed into the movie without much character development, save for one or two scenes. I also really didn't like the villain played by Bobby Cannavale. He's just this weird dude who has insects crawling all over him, and every time he was on screen I was just thinking, can this scene just end? He added almost nothing to this movie. You could cut out all his scenes and the film would still flow exactly as it did. That's how big of an impact he makes in this film. Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle is, as expected, packed with action sequences, and they're all great for the most part. The action in Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle is very enjoyable. The stunt work in particular is fantastic. You can tell that it's real people doing these stunts. But with that said, there is an over-reliance on CGI. There are a few sequences that feel filled to the brim with CG, and it looks pretty cartoony and fake at times. A lot of people seem to be really enjoying this movie, and I'll be honest, I really did. I had a fun time with this movie. I know the word fun is a word I've used quite a bit in this review, but that's really the best word I can use to describe this movie. Just a fun, entertaining movie with mostly great performances. I didn't love Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, but I certainly had a good time watching it, so with that in mind, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle gets a 7.5 out of 10. So guys, those are my thoughts on Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed the movie. I didn't love it, but it was certainly a blast, and I recommend you get a bunch of friends, get a bunch of food, drinks, and just go see it. It's a really fun time in the cinema. So, yeah, with that in mind, once again, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Facebook. Did I say Instagraph instead of Instagram? Apologies. Oh, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter. And also, I'm actually on Stardust now, as it seems, so if you go to my Stardust page, which I will leave in the description, you will find reactions to a couple of trailers, such as the Slender Man trailer and the Teen Titans Go to the Movies trailer, as well as a few reactions to films like The Greatest Showman, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and of course this film. So yeah, go check me out on Stardust if you want. I'm not going to force you. If you don't even have Stardust, then I recommend you get it. It's a really, really, really good app for film buffs. But anyway, I'm going to get out of your hair now and let you enjoy your day. It's nighttime as I'm recording this, which means I have to be a bit quieter than usual. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. So, yeah, goodbye.